Good evening and welcome to another Health Talk with John T. Sorry it's a little bit late this weekend. I've had a crazy week with work and picking up extra shifts in these crazy times. But here I am bringing you health tips to be a healthier, happier you. So, I was looking at the effects of fat on muscle this week. And it was really interesting because, see, what they can do is they can take stem cells from the top layer of your muscle. That's where they're released from. They're released in response to stimulus, like exercise or lifting weights, right? When you need to build more muscle, the body releases stem cells and you're able to build new muscle fibers. So what they did in this study I was reading, they made muscle fibers in a test tube. And then they grew it by itself, and then they also grew it with some fat cells. Now, the reason they did this is because inside your muscle, in amongst the muscle fibers, there's actually fat. I didn't know that. Your muscle fibers also store fat and glycogen, but you also have fat cells in the muscle for extra energy storage. And so they were looking at the effects. And they took samples from average, what they called lean, as well as some fairly morbidly obese, like 45% body fat people. So the study also accounted for adrenaline, actually. It was very interesting. The adrenaline on the obese people was actually able to help normalize some of the hormone levels in the obese person, with the exception of insulin. So that would be something, is that fixable? I talked a little bit about insulin and obesity last week, so I'm not going to get too much into that. So the presence of adrenaline had an effect on the production of sugar storage. So it lowered the body's ability to make sugar in a storage form. And it didn't have any effect on burning it. Whereas stimulating with the adrenaline it decreased the body's ability to burn sugar as a fuel, but it didn't have any effect on the storage of it. So having fat in the cell will affect the body's ability to burn and store sugar in its natural way inside the muscle to actually use as energy, with or without the adrenaline stimulus, which you get from, moving can help, to stimulate the adrenaline. So really, again, like I talked about, to avoid building enough fat to get to that point of obesity, you want to eat a healthy, not a caloric deficit, which is where you're not eating enough energy to maintain. You want to eat healthy. You want to eat enough food to maintain your energy levels. If you were having issues with being overweight or having too much body fat, then you would have to put yourself in a caloric deficit to get rid of some of that excess fat if you want to normalize your levels, including insulin and other hormones. So how does protein affect this? Or how is protein affected by this? Okay, so there are building blocks of protein called amino acids. Now, sometimes I accidentally talk about them like they're the same thing, so I'm going to clarify here. So, the body breaks down protein. I didn't know that there's an amino acid called leucine that is essential to make protein. Your body has other uses for amino acids, like making hormones. I thought it uses protein to do this. Apparently, that might not quite be the case. So, when the body breaks down protein into its separate parts, it produces a toxin, which, okay, that sounds bad. However, your body has systems of dealing with it. You need an amino acid called glycine to help get rid of this and possibly even recycle it back into the system, basically to build it back up. Your body breaks it down and builds it back up, right? That's what it does. So, looking at a lean average person having a muscle fiber with or without fat had the same levels of this toxin. But looking at an obese person, they were much lower in just the muscle fiber. However, having the fat raised the levels of that toxin. I had to dig for a couple hours to figure out, okay, why the difference and why, if obesity is such a bad thing, why does it have lower levels? It didn't make sense. So, what I realized was that likely the obese people were not eating enough protein to begin with. So their body wasn't breaking it down as much. So to have that excess fat in there was causing it to break down more, right? And this is literally, what was going on in the study. I could see it happening, on the charts, like before my very eyes. And I'm like, whoa, like, wow. So it's important for everybody to get protein from all different sources. It's important to get a good variety of healthy foods. If you're looking for glycine specifically, which I think could possibly benefit for weight loss, you'd be looking at seafood, spinach, cabbage, dairy, eggs. These are all foods that are really high in glycine. Your body is also able to make it. You have 9 actually, essential amino acids. It used to be 8. They recently discovered a new one. So what that means is that there's, I think, close to 20 amino acids that your body uses, and glycine is not one of the 9 essential, it's one of the other ones. So your body is able to make it. However, sometimes it's a little more difficult for some people's bodies to make those amino acids properly. And I think I'm going to have to dig a little more into this, that obesity may be one of those cases. Just from looking at this study, it almost tells me that it is harder for them to make glycine. This could be for genetic reasons. Maybe it's from the obesity. I don't know. I don't know why, but I would suggest that, eating these foods, especially the cabbage or the spinach, to get the vitamins and the fiber that's, going to help with your digestion. Super healthy foods that everybody should be getting. So anyway, I hope you've liked this episode. I want to wish everyone a happy 24, and I'll see you guys next week.